The sun was bright over the slave market on planet Drexa. Heat waves danced above the metal cages lined in rows. Screams, laughter, and cruel bargains filled the air. It was a place where hope died fast, and where beings were sold cheap like broken tools. In the center of it all stood Tira. Tall, thick-bodied, broad-shouldered. Her skin had a soft violet hue and shimmered under the sun. Her arms were chained, and her feet rested on hot stone. A sign hung around her neck. Too big. Too strong, unwanted. She had been standing there for hours. Buyers came, looked, laughed. Some whispered rude things. Some poked her side and said, "Too much meat." Others just walked past. The auctioneer, a skinny alien with sharp teeth, shouted louder each time. "Strong, female, can carry 10 crates alone. Good for heavy labor or security." No one responded. A small green alien with big eyes chuckled. "She'll break the floor if she walks." The crowd laughed. Tira didn't flinch, she didn't cry. She had stopped crying years ago. In a corner of the market, a human stood alone. Cal. He wore a brown coat and dusty boots. His eyes were calm, his face unreadable. He watched the crowd, watched the girl. She didn't look weak to him, she looked tired. Worn down, but not broken. He stepped forward. "How much?" he asked. The auctioneer blinked. "For her? 10 credits. No one wants her. She's useless." Cal nodded. "I'll take her." The crowd gasped, then laughed again. "You serious? Human? Don't waste your coins." "She's probably slow." Cal didn't answer. He just handed over the coins. The auctioneer grabbed the chain, dropped it in Cal's hand, and backed away quickly. "She's yours now. No refunds." Tira stared at Cal, unsure. Her voice was quiet, almost dry. "You bought me?" Cal looked at her. "I freed you." "No," she said. "I saw the coins. You bought me." He gave a small shrug. "Fine. I bought your chains, not your soul." She lowered her eyes. She didn't know how to respond. They walked together toward his old transport ship. People still watched. Some sneered. Some mocked. "She won't fit through the door. She'll crush his bed. Human. Has weird taste." Tira expected Cal to yell back. He didn't. He just kept walking. At the ship's ramp, he turned to her. "Hungry?" She nodded. He opened the door, and for the first time in years, someone let her inside without fear. Inside, the ship was small, but warm. Lights glowed softly. A folded blanket lay on a seat. A small meal sat on the table. Cal handed her a cup of water. Tira drank it slowly. She didn't understand. No shouting, no beatings, no commands, just silence and food. She sat across from him, unsure how to sit without making noise. Her body always felt too heavy, too much. He noticed. "Relax," he said. "That chair's made for weight. You won't break it." She stared. "Why me?" He raised an eyebrow. "There were others. Small ones. Pretty ones. I saw you skip them. Then you chose me." "Why?" Cal leaned back. Thought for a moment. "You didn't cry when they laughed at you," he said. "Didn't beg. You stood like a mountain." She blinked. "That's strength," he added. "And I like strong people." Tira looked down at her hands. Big hands. Rough hands. She never thought of them as beautiful. But now, maybe they weren't. Ugly. Just different. That night, Cal gave her a soft blanket and a corner to rest. "No cage?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "I don't believe in cages." "Not even for slaves?" He looked her in the eyes. "You're not a slave anymore." Tira didn't reply, but as she laid down, she did something strange, something she hadn't done in years. She smiled, just a little. Outside, the market closed, but somewhere in the dark sky above, a star blinked. A new story had begun, and for the first time, Tira wasn't someone's burden, she was someone's choice. Tira sat in the corner of the ship, legs pulled close to her chest. The blanket Cal gave her was still wrapped around her shoulders, though she didn't feel cold. Her body was used to harsh weather, hunger, and pain. But this, kindness, was something new, something strange. She watched Cal as he worked quietly at the small control panel. He didn't chain her. He didn't shout. He didn't even look at her like others did, with disgust or fear. She couldn't understand it. After some time, Cal stood up and walked over with a tray of food. Simple alien stew, warm, fresh. Tira blinked. That's for me? Of course, he said, placing it gently in front of her. You didn't eat much earlier. She hesitated. Is this part of something? Cal frowned. Like what? Work? Obedience? Payment? He looked confused. For a moment, then he shook his head. No, it's just food. For you. Tira picked up the spoon with shaking fingers. She wasn't used to being served, only kicked thrown scraps or fed as part of control. She took a slow bite. It was hot and soft. Her eyes watered, but not from the taste. From memory. She looked at him across the small room. Why me? I told you already, Cal said. You were strong, quiet. You didn't deserve to be in chains. But many are in chains, she whispered. You didn't free them. He nodded. True. But I saw you. Tira tilted her head. And what? Did you see? Cal stared at her, calm and honest. I saw someone who didn't believe in herself anymore, because no one ever did. Tira froze. His words hit like thunder. Later that night, she looked at herself in the mirror inside the tiny washroom. The mirror was cracked but clear enough. Her shoulders were wide, her hips thick, her arms heavy with strength. She had always been told these were her shame. You don't look like the others, they used to say. Your body isn't made for beauty. No one will ever want someone like you. But Cal didn't seem to care about any of that, and that confused her more than anything. The next day, she helped clean the ship. Without asking, she lifted crates and repaired a bent support bar in the storage bay. Cal saw her and smiled. You don't need to work so hard, he said. I want to, she replied. He nodded. All right, then do it for you, not for me. Tira paused, then slowly smiled again. That night they talked. She asked him where he was from. He told her about a small Earth colony on the edge of human space, a place with forests, quiet lakes, and starry skies. I grew up small, Cal said. Weak, picked on. Tira looked surprised. You? He chuckled. Yeah, I didn't grow strong like others. I learned to think instead. Fix machines, read people. And now you fix people? She asked softly. He didn't answer, but his silence told her everything. Days passed. Tira no longer sat in corners. She moved freely in the ship, ate meals without asking, even laughed once when Cal made a joke about a squeaky chair. The fear was fading, but the confusion remained. Why? Did he choose her? There were hundreds, no thousands of smaller, softer, prettier alien girls. Why not them? One night she asked him directly, Do you feel sorry for me? Cal's head turned slowly. No. Then what am I to you? He stood quiet for a while, then said something that made her heart stop. You're someone who still hasn't seen her own worth. But I have. That night Tira couldn't sleep. She thought about the day he found her, the laughter, the stares, the silence. And then, the calm voice of a human who didn't flinch, didn't laugh, didn't walk away. Back in her bed, she whispered to herself, If he sees worth, maybe I can too. And for the first time since childhood, she began to believe it. Tira stood by the round window of the ship, watching the stars float in the black sky. They looked peaceful, silent and far. She wondered if somewhere out there, her past still waited, or if it had already forgotten her. Behind her, Cal was, fixing a loose wire near the ship's engine. He didn't say much these days. He let her move freely, let her think, let her breathe. That was new. She had never known this kind of silence, the kind that didn't hurt. Later, while checking storage crates, Tira found something, an old metal chest. It was dented and dusty, but the latch still worked. She opened, Inside were old clothes, a torn photo of a woman holding a baby, and a folded blanket with a human name tag stitched on. Emily, Earth Colony 12. She touched the cloth gently. Your family? Cal looked over and nodded. My sister. She passed, a long time ago. Tira said nothing, just folded the blanket again and put it back. You keep things clean, Cal said with a small smile. I was trained to clean, she answered. But now, he said, you clean because you want to. She looked at her hands. Maybe. That evening, Cal sat at the table with a small device that showed star charts. Tira sat across from him, slowly eating her food. Then she said something unexpected. I was born on Velthurn. Cal raised an eyebrow. That's a dangerous mining moon. She nodded. My mother died when I was 6. My father sold me to repay his debt. I was traded to 8 different owners before I turned 15. Cal didn't speak. He just listened. They all said the same thing, Tira continued. Too large, too loud, too slow. I was whipped for walking too hard, hit for breathing too loud, chained, because they feared I'd fight back. Did you ever fight back? Cal asked. She paused. Once, when I was 17, I broke a man's arm who tried to touch me. What happened? They starved me for a week, then locked me in a cage for a month. Cal's jaw tightened. Tira looked down. After that, I stopped trying. Silence filled the ship. Then Cal said, You were punished for being strong. She nodded. They feared what they didn't understand. Another nod. And yet, he said slowly, you're still here. You didn't give up. Tira looked at him, her eyes wide. He leaned forward. You're not just big. You're brave. Later that night, Tira stared at her reflection again. The old bruises had faded, but the scars were still there, on her back, her shoulders, her legs. She traced them with her fingers. Each line told a story. A beating, a betrayal, a sale. She whispered to herself, I am not just this body. Behind her, Cal appeared in the doorway. I can remove the chains from your ankles, he said. They're still locked, even though I don't use them. Tira nodded. He knelt beside her. Carefully, he used a small tool to unlock the old cuffs. They clicked open. For the first time in years, her feet were free. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. But when she stood up and took her first step without the clinking of metal, something changed inside her. She was still tall, still thick, still full of muscle and weight. But now, she walked without shame. The next morning, Tira woke early and made breakfast. When Cal sat at the table, surprised, she smiled and said, It's not much, but I wanted to. He took a bite and nodded. Better than my cooking, she laughed softly, then said, Thank you for helping me believe I'm more than what they called me. Cal looked at her. I didn't give you that belief, he said. You found it. That night, as stars blinked outside the ship's windows, Tira lay on her side, staring out. The scars were still there. But now, they felt lighter. Because she was no longer carrying them alone. Tira had started smiling more. Not all the time, but enough that Cal noticed. She helped fix broken pipes on the ship. She cooked better meals than Cal ever could. She even started humming soft alien songs from her childhood. And when she thought no one was watching, she'd touch her bare ankles, still amazed they were no longer chained. But peace didn't last long in a galaxy filled with cruel eyes and greedy hands. One morning, Cal landed the ship on a quiet trade station orbiting a dead moon. He needed fuel, and Tira wanted to stretch her legs. She wore a thick cloak and kept her hood low. As they walked through the station, Tira noticed something. Stares. Whispers. Not the usual kind. These were hungry, mean, and watchful. Cal noticed, too. They kept moving, but a group of alien thugs followed them into a scrapyard behind the station. There were 5 of them, ugly, tall, and armed. The leader stepped forward, smirking. Didn't think we'd forget, did you, big girl? Tira froze. She knew that voice. It was Gralix, one of her old owners, the one who locked her in a cage for months. "You broke my arm years ago," he growled. "I want it back." Cal stepped in front of her. "She's not your property." Gralix sneered. "She's nothing but muscle and failure. And now you've dressed her up like a real person?" Tira clenched her fists. The fear rose inside her, but so did something else, not shame, not sadness, anger. Cal turned to her and said calmly, "You can walk away or fight beside me." Tira looked at Gralix, at his crew, and then at Cal. She stepped forward. "I'm not afraid anymore." Gralix laughed. "What's one oversized beast going to do?" Tira answered by grabbing the nearest metal pipe and swinging it. It cracked across the first thug's face, knocking him flat. Another one rushed at her, claws out. She lifted him and slammed him into the wall. Gralix pulled a shock whip and lashed it at her just like he used to, but this time, she caught it midair. She yanked it from his hands, eyes burning with fire. "No more chains," she growled. Meanwhile, Cal fought two thugs of his own, dodging and striking back with quick moves. He wasn't as strong as Tira, but he was fast and clever. He used the terrain, wires, and broken machines to confuse his enemies. In just minutes, the fight was over. Gralix and his men lay groaning on the ground. Tira stood tall, breathing, heavy, hair wild, blood dripping from a cut on her forehead. Cal walked up and handed her a cloth. "You okay?" She wiped her face and nodded. "I didn't run this time." "No," Cal said with a small grin. "You stood." Back on the ship, Tira sat on the edge of her bed. Her hands shook a little. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "They might," Cal said. "But next time we'll be ready." Tira looked down. "I was scared, not of them, but of becoming like them. A monster." Cal shook his head. "You're not a monster. You just remembered your strength." That night, Tira stood by the mirror again. She had a new scar above her eye, but it didn't bother her. It was hers. Earned. A sign that she fought. Not just for survival, but for her freedom. In the quiet hum of the ship, she whispered to herself, "I'm not too big. I'm not a mistake. I'm not property. I am me." And she meant it. Tira stood at the ship's window again, watching stars pass by. But this time her hands were steady. Her shoulders didn't sag. Something inside her had changed. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't afraid of her own size, her voice, or her past. And yet, deep down, she wondered, what now? She had escaped chains. She had fought back. But what did freedom mean? Cal came into the room holding a small package. "What's that?" Tira asked. "Something I found on the station. Thought it might suit you." He handed her the box. She opened it slowly. Inside was a thick black jacket, reinforced armor lining, strong fabric, custom-sized. She looked up, surprised. "It's huge." "I measured," Cal said. "You deserve gear that fits." Tira held it against her. It was heavy, perfect, warm. Her hands shook a little. No one had ever given her anything. Not without a price. She looked at Cal, eyes uncertain. "Why are you always kind?" He didn't smile. He just said, "Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago." The ship arrived at a small spaceport for supplies. Tira wore the jacket proudly. She walked tall. She didn't hide. But as they moved through the crowd, whispers started again. Not laughter this time. Fear. "She's the one," someone said. "The big one who crushed Gralix's crew. She tore through 5 armed thugs like a war beast. She's a monster." Tira froze. Cal turned to her. "Ignore them." But the words stung. Not because they were lies, but because part of them was true. She had fought hard, hit hard, hurt people, even if they deserved it. Did that make her a monster? Inside a shop, a little alien child stepped out from behind a counter. She stared up at Tira with wide eyes. Tira braced for fear, but the girl ran forward and hugged her. "Leg, you're the lady who broke the bad men," the girl said. Tira froze. I want to be like you when I grow up. The girl smiled. Her mother ran over, nervous. I'm sorry. She shouldn't bother. She's fine, Tira said softly. She's brave. Back on the ship, Tira was quiet again. Cal sat beside her. You okay? I thought they'd always see me as a joke, she whispered. But now, they see me as a monster. Cal shook his head. They don't know you. Only you know you. She looked at him. So who am I? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, You're someone strong enough to protect others, but soft enough to care if she hurts them. Tira blinked. She hadn't expected that. You're not a monster, he said. You're something rarer, a protector with a scarred heart. That night, she dreamed of her younger self. Thin, cold, afraid, she was hiding behind a cage door watching big shadows pass by. Then, in the dream, she saw her present self, tall, armored, proud. She bent down and said to the small girl, Come out now. I'll protect you. And the little one did. The next morning, Cal handed her a data pad. What's this? A job request. It's from a mining colony. They're asking for help. Big beasts attacking their fields. Their guards can't handle it. Tira raised an eyebrow. They want help from us? No. From you. She hesitated. What if I hurt someone? Then, you stop and learn. Like you always do. She stared at the screen. They feared her strength once. Now they needed it. She nodded. Set the course. As the ship lifted off, Tira stood near the window again. She wasn't running from her past anymore. She wasn't hiding her size. She wasn't ashamed of her power. Let the stars whisper. Let the people stare. Let the cowards call her a monster. Because she knew the truth now. She was never a monster. She was a shield. And no one could take that away again. The mining colony was dark, dusty, and tense. When Tira stepped off the ship, the workers stared. Many looked, afraid. Some whispered. A few nodded in quiet respect. Her size was impossible to miss, and her armor made her look like something out of a war story. Cal followed behind her, holding a small scanner. They said the attacks happen at night. The beasts come from the forest line. Silent, fast, strong. Tira nodded. Then I'll wait outside. You don't have to do this alone, Cal said. I know, she replied softly. But sometimes, shields work best when they're standing still and unshakable. As evening fell, Tira stood in the center of the colony. Children peeked at her from behind tents. One small boy whispered, She's not a soldier. She's too big. His sister replied, That's why she's perfect. She won't fall. Tira heard them, and her heart grew stronger. The sun dipped behind the rocky hills. The sky turned purple, then black. Still, nothing moved, until a howl, low, close. Then, rustling, scraping. Figures appeared from the shadows. Not one, not three. 7 long-limbed beasts with glowing eyes, fast, snarling, starving. They charged, and Tira didn't move. The first beast lunged, claws raised. She grabbed it midair, slammed it down, and spun to meet the next. She moved like she wasn't just defending herself, but defending everyone behind her. One beast jumped on her back. She crashed into a wall, crushing it. Another bit her arm. She punched it off with blood dripping from her elbow. One claw slashed her shoulder, but she stayed on her feet. Cal watched from the tower, eyes wide. Tira, you're holding them all alone. The battle lasted 5 minutes. It felt like hours. In the end, the ground was covered in broken stones and blood. The beasts, either dead or fleeing. And in the middle, chest heaving, was Tira, wounded, but standing, unshaken. The workers rushed out. A few stood back, but one small girl ran up to her and hugged her leg. You didn't let them get us. Tira bent down, slowly. Her arms were shaking. but her smile was calm. "No one gets past me," she said. Inside the medic tent, Cal cleaned her wounds. "You were outnumbered," he said quietly. "I'm used to that," she replied. "You scared them all away?" "I didn't fight to scare them," she whispered. "Then why?" Tira looked him in the eyes. "Because someone once looked at me and didn't flinch." The colony leader came that night, an old man with silver skin and tired eyes. He bowed deeply. "You saved our children," he said. "We can never repay you." "I didn't do it for payment," Tira answered. He placed a medal in her hand anyway. "Not for payment, for thanks." She stared at the small shining symbol, a shield, just like her. As they left the next morning, Cal noticed something. Tira stood straighter, walked taller, smiled more. "What now?" he asked. She looked at the stars and said, "Let's find the next place that needs a shield." The message came through the ship's old comm system, a name Tira hadn't heard in years. Velthurn, the planet where she was born, the planet where she was sold, where her chains began. Cal looked up from the screen. "Distress call from Velthurn's outer villages, raiders taking workers and children." Tira stood frozen. "Do you want to avoid it?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "No. I want to go back." The ship landed in the red dust of Velthurn's dry plains. The air smelled the same. Burned rock, ash, pain. But this time, Tira didn't come in chains. She came armored. Not as a product, not as a prisoner, but as a guardian. A group of villagers ran to them. Their faces were tired, eyes filled with fear. "They come at night," one elder said. "They grab the weak, the big ones, the different ones." Tira narrowed her eyes. "The ones who don't fit in?" The elder nodded. "They think big means dangerous or useless, so they sell them off-world." Tira's fists tightened. Not this time. That night she stood outside the village wall, waiting. She didn't tremble, she didn't hide. She stood like stone. When the raiders arrived, hoverbikes, laser nets, guns, Tira stepped into their path. The leader, a tall alien with silver tattoos, laughed. "Get out of the way, giant, we're not here for you." Tira spoke loud and calm. "You are here for me." He raised his blaster. "One warning," she replied. "Me too." The fight exploded like thunder. Tira moved like a storm, fist slamming metal, body knocking bikes over, eyes burning with fury. They shot her, cut her, but she didn't fall. She couldn't fall. Behind her were children. Behind her were girls, who looked like she once did. Too big, too strange, too scared. She threw raiders like rag dolls, ripped nets apart with her bare hands, protected every corner of that village. When one rider aimed at a little boy, Tira took the shot herself and kept moving. Pain meant nothing now. Only protection mattered. By sunrise, the raiders were gone. Some fled. Some lay broken. None dared stay. The villagers came out slowly, stunned. No one cheered at first, they only stared at her, bloodied, limping, breathing hard. Then, a little girl stepped forward and placed a small flower in Tira's hand. "You're like the wall that saved," as Tira knelt, barely holding herself up. "No," she said softly. "I'm not a wall. I'm a shield." Cal helped her back to the ship. "You could have died," he said. "But I didn't," she replied. "And if I had, it would have been protecting someone smaller than me." He looked at her with quiet respect. "You're not the same woman I found in that market." Tira smiled through the blood. "No, that woman was lost." A few days later, she sat outside the ship watching children play. Big children, small ones, all safe. A young girl with wide shoulders ran past, laughing. Tira smiled. She had once cried in chains. Now, others laughed because she stood free. One villager brought her a gift, a cloak sewn by hand, strong fabric, heavy. "Not to hide your size," the woman said, "but to honor it." Tira placed it around her shoulders. It fit perfectly. As the ship lifted off, heading to the stars once more, Cal looked at her. "Where to now?" Tira thought for a moment, then answered, "Anywhere they say someone like me is too much, too loud, too big, too strange." She grinned. "That's where I'll go next." Because once she was nothing but a slave. Now, she was their shield, their guardian, their hero. And her story had just begun.